What's up, everybody? Getting back into this. We're doing all sorts of wiring today, figuring out how I want everything wired, how everything can be wired, and what wires I have to lengthen. This is not going to be a bolt, and I'm going to have to lengthen several wires to get to where they need to be. And today, primarily, we're just doing a whole bunch of wiring.
Can you feel the silence? Enjoy the silence.
Alright, we got the torque mount made. It ain't the prettiest thing I've ever made. Not sure what's going on with my welding skills today or what. But we do have a functioning torque mount. This was using the Honda shifter end. So it might not be the best material for the mount, and it might give out soon, but I'm sure they make some sort of poly replacement or something. Either way, that's a functioning torque mount that we got here. Just got to finish bolting that up and move on to the next thing. Alright, moving on to the shifter. This should be pretty easy compared to what I've been doing with the motor mounts and everything. Pretty much just bolt it on, figure out where it needs to be, and then weld. Alright, moving on to the shifter. This should be pretty easy compared to what I've been doing as far as the motor mounts go. I'm going to pop it in this empty hole, figure out exactly where it sits, and then just simply weld bolts to the back and then drill holes in the front, because that's how the Volkswagen one is set up. It might actually wind up being pretty much exactly where the Honda one is, because my first test fit, the engine was about 2 inches further up forward than it is now. So with any luck, it might fit like perfectly, which would be great.
Enjoy the silence.
Alright, next step is getting all this into the car. My God, this weighs every bit of 25 pounds. This is so much wire. I'm going to stick it all underneath the dash. Gotta get the rest of this HVAC box out the way since it doesn't really do anything anymore. No heater core, no controls, anything. So I'll be using the Honda specific tool to remove it. Cool. So much room for activities. Alright, well, we got the wiring harness in the engine bay, or the part that goes in the engine bay at least. Everything looks like it'll fit. This is all radiator stuff, which would be right here, so that should work. Main relay, horn stuff, which I don't need anymore. I will have to repair this alternator wire. I forget what happened to it, but pretty sure I found it like that. But that works. Bam. I will have to make a custom battery fuse box, or at least not a custom battery fuse box, a holder for it. Sit right about here. Anywhere, it doesn't really matter, because the actual battery will be in the trunk, and I'll have a wire running to it, the fuse box. But yeah, everything else, everything looks like it works, everything looks like it fits. And I gotta wire everything underneath the dash, or at least figure out where to stuff it all. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. I don't have pressure plate bolts or flywheel bolts. There's no real point pulling this motor yet. So while I'm waiting for those parts or to go get them, we're figuring out the power steering right now. Should be pretty straightforward. I'm pretty happy about it. This is the pressure line, which looks really close to the diameter of the Honda one. I mean, like real close. So we're just going to take a compression fitting and splice these together, and that'll be my pressure line. And on the back here, this is from the reservoir to the rack, and I will just simply be using a regular hose. It doesn't need to be super serious, and it is already the same size as the Volkswagen hose, which is also nice, so that's real simple. So I basically already have the power steering figured out. Power steering reservoir sits here. Standard hose goes to this. The factory Volkswagen hose comes right there and goes to where it should be. So yeah, hopefully the Honda will have working power steering. Working on this wiring. This is one of 3 main harnesses that run the Volkswagen. This is the one that's in the engine bay. The one that runs oxygen sensors and various other things. This is the plug up for the ECU. The ECU is going to be underneath the dash. That's the easiest place to put it. Just slap it there, be done with it. I will probably have to lengthen a few select wires because certain wires need to be over there because that's where I'm going to have the battery junction. Hopefully I won't have any resistance problems. I've lengthened wires before on a Volkswagen and wound up having absolutely no power whatsoever, so hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, we're going to work on stuff in this. Got to cut this out so I can get it into the car and pretty much just have this wire in this box, which is probably just going to go like here somewhere. Coolant bottle might wind up being here just so I have more space in my Honda fuse box and my Volkswagen fuse accessories. Well, with this relay box sitting here, make a bracket for that. I guess I pretty much am I don't have that many places I can put this coolant bottle, so it's going to have to go around where it is now. That kind of eliminates my ability to put the mass airflow here, so we will have to send it over that way. And I will have to get a longer hose because this no longer reaches. It used to be like here on the Volkswagen, now it's back here. But all this should work. I only have one more wire bundle to send through that hole, and then we're done. As far as the wiring goes, I do need to put the gas pedal in there. We'll be using a Mark IV gas pedal to run the engine. The brakes and the clutch I'm going to attempt to be Honda. The brakes at least. The clutch should work. I guess we'll find out if there's difference in volume of the Honda master cylinder versus the Volkswagen one. If I can't run the Honda master cylinder to the Volkswagen clutch, that's actually a pretty big deal. That's pretty involved. Volkswagen master cylinders and brake boosters are not nice to deal with. It's basically a plate that's the entire back of the car, so I'm really not trying to do that. It's so involved more than a normal car would be, so I'm hoping I can get away with using the Honda clutch to operate the Volkswagen slave cylinder. But for right now, I'm moving in the inside of the car. I've pretty much got every wire placed where I need it. I know what I need to lengthen, I know what I need to shorten. So we're moving on the inside of the car now to get all that wiring done. Next on the menu is getting all this sorted out and kind of somewhat organized. I obviously need a fuse box where I can reach it. This is one hookup for the ECU. This is the other hookup for the ECU, which is just going to go somewhere in here. Haven't decided yet. Most of the stuff is probably just going to be basically zip tied or very simple brackets. This is cluster wiring, so that has to go over there. Yeah, pretty much most of this stuff has to kind of go over there. I mean, I got gas pedal wiring here. But yeah, I'll be using my factory, well not factory ECU, the tuned ECU I used to have. I'm really hoping that was a mobilizer defeated. I can't remember if it was or not, or if it just kind of came with the tune. Well, I guess we'll find out. If not, I hope I can send it out to my new tuner. I don't use these guys anymore. And he can just remove it for me. His turnaround's really quick, so I'm hoping... Hey, I'm hoping I don't even need it. I hope I already have it defeated. If it is not defeated, unfortunately, the ignition I have will not work. Basically, the car won't talk. The two units won't talk to each other. The cluster, the ECU, and the key. And the car won't start with the mobilizer defeat. No matter what I do, I am going to have like a flashing light in my face from the cluster I have. Because it doesn't match the ECU. And even if with the mobilizer defeated, it's still going to not read that it's not the right cluster. But aside from that, yeah, it's pretty much all just plug and play from this point, just figuring out where I want all this stuff. Well, I got the wire bundle pretty much where I want it. I mean, again, this sucker weighs like 25 pounds. It's not easy to work with, but we're probably gonna, well, I am gonna eliminate the glove box. It's gonna still be here, but basically its sole purpose is going to be a diagnostic port. This is where all the Volkswagen fuse stuff is going to go, where all the relays are going to go. You pop open the glove box so you can do your diag work. ECU is going to be up in this corner. It is plugged in at this point. This is all Honda airbag stuff. This is the Volkswagen connector. That guy is somewhere around here. There's a huge mass of wires. I'll figure it out. I do have to lengthen 3 wire bundles just due to their position. This is for the ignition. That has to go over there. This is for the cluster. That also has to go over there. And somewhere around here is the gas pedal, which wound up way over here. So obviously that will have to be lengthened to wind up over there. I'm hoping this setup will work with using just a Volkswagen gas pedal, and it won't really need the other information that it would normally have, and it'll just work. But I guess we'll find out. If with it being a manual, it doesn't care about gas input as much as an automatic would, so I'm hoping we'll be all good. I'm gonna make some sort of bracket to kind of hold all this stuff and make it look a lot nicer than just hanging and jumbling and just chilling. But yeah, right now I'm moving on to getting rid of the Honda gas pedal and mounting up the Volkswagen one. I got the Volkswagen gas pedal here. We're gonna make a simple plate for it that it bolts to, and then the plate will be welded to the car. It's a little bit concerning. I didn't notice till just now. This literally says diesel on it. I did get this harness out of a diesel car. As far as the running stuff, I know for a fact that they are fairly interchangeable based off my 2-liter VR swap, but it does raise an eyebrow that says specifically diesel. I don't know what the difference would be as far as an electronic gas pedal. If it doesn't work, I guess I'll just have to get another one out of an actual 2-liter. But hopefully it'll work. Hopefully it's compatible. Hopefully it's just a sticker. Moving on to the ignition and the dash cluster, we got to take the Honda ignition out. That's going to be put somewhere in the hopes of just having working lights and whatnot. I may just honestly hardwire the brake lights and the main lights, as at this point that's all the Honda needs to do. Everything else is on the Volkswagen side. But either way, we're removing this ignition. I have to cut it off. And then we will be putting the Volkswagen ignition on the steering column and wiring it appropriately. I'm going to try to have it in pretty much the exact same spot so that the bezel covers it and it just kind of looks stock. You just have a Volkswagen key as opposed to a Honda key to start the car. Other than that, we got to get this cluster out. This is the Honda cluster, and it no longer serves any sort of purpose at all anymore. So that is going away, and we're putting the Volkswagen one in its place. Aside from obviously needing to know what speed I'm going and RPMs and whatnot, Volkswagens there's a fair bit of electronics that are inside this, and the car has to have a cluster in order to work. But we're going to put this in here. I'm going to bolt it in somehow, some way. It's probably going to sit about there. And then we're going to put the Honda bezel back over it and some sort of cover to kind of clean it all up. But it'll sit there, and yeah. I was going to be a lot more involved in this and convert like the Honda appearance over, like the fact that the cover goes forward, but at this point I'm probably just literally going to bolt the Volkswagen one in there, put like a plastic overlay or some sort of rubber filling to kind of close that gap, and just call it a day. Well, that's where we're at right now. I got the place where the gas pedal used to go all cleared. I got my custom mount for the Volkswagen gas pedal, and it will be welded to the frame of the car and put about there, and then wired appropriately. I'm actually pretty close to just having everything plugged in. I just got to sort the gas pedal, the cluster, and the ignition. And then next is moving on to the fuel tank. And then, yeah, that should be the end of the wiring. And then it's a matter of just figuring out fuel and going for first start. Alright, so we got the Volkswagen ignition on the column here. I'm pretty happy with the placement of it. I just have to make a plate that bolts to that, and then a strap that bolts to the steering column, and it should just kind of slap together. And it's going to be popping out where it should be. The ignition trigger should have enough space. I've run the wires over there. It'll be tight, but it should work. I do not know what these go to. I have no clue, honestly. I don't have it on my harness. Should be somewhere around here. And I don't have any tiny little wires or anything, unless they're within here, but I haven't found them yet. It's a bit of a cause of a concern. I'll have to pop my Jetta open, figure out what exactly those wires are. I might not need them. It might be something like, I don't know, turn signal. Who knows? We'll figure that out. But for right now, yeah, that's where we're at. We got most of the wiring in. We got most everything, the challenges between the two cars figured out. So, yeah, just need a little bit more fabrication and my wiring will be done. So that's where we're at this point. We got all the wiring in here, the ignition's in here, for the most part. The shifter is bolted up and functioning. That's actually in the body of the car now. It's not going anywhere. I like the way it feels. The placement, it's a little bit more forward. I mean, it's going to get kind of close to this. I can drop this whole thing down if I need to, if that's the case. I have designed it that I can do that, which I'll probably have to do, because with the shifter up here, it's probably going to be, it's just going to be in the way of the dash. But yeah, all the wiring is in here, ECU's at least plugged in, all my fuses are in place. Pretty much got all the Volkswagen wiring in here at this point. The only thing that's really left, super fabrication wise, is figuring out the fuel tank. But other than that, the motor is bolted in fully at this point. It's not going anywhere. The radiator is in. One little bracket needs to be made, but all the hard part actually getting it to fit, we're all done with that. I started to plug everything in before I realized the motor does have to come out so I can replace the clutch. Then it's going back in. I'm going to put all the wiring together, all the hoses together, make what I need to make. And yeah, we're still plodding along on this project. I'm pretty hopeful at this point that I can pull this off.